We've got tips and recipes for healthy living. So for fun and inspiration, come and join us in the raw food world.
Welcome everybody, this is Matt Monarch with the Raw Food World TV show, and we're here again at Brian and Alexandra's house. We're trying to do this once a week. So Angela
Hello.
has a few things that we wanted to discuss, and for this week she thought of...
We're going to be talking about taking action. So a lot of you might recognize the pattern of knowing that if you did a certain thing more in your life, it would probably help you out, and that might be eating more raw food or exercising more or playing more with your children or whatever it is, and yet you don't do it. You don't actually take action on it. So we wanted to give you some top tips on taking action.
Isn't this kind of like procrastination?
It could be a lot of crossover, but we're going to talk around the edges a bit more. Yeah, bring some other ideas out on taking action.
Cool. Hey guys.
Hey guys.
Thanks for coming on again.
Our pleasure. Thanks for coming over.
Cool. So what do you guys think about taking action?
We think it's very important. One of the key principles that we talk about all the time, we were just chatting about some of our favorite big ideas. So much, even when you were just describing that, Angela, so many other ideas came into my head.
Yeah.
But just the idea of, probably my favorite one is this idea of, actually I'm going to say the number one thing. Remember that one? The number one thing, the idea of when we think about what it is that would really improve our lives, like think about what's the number one thing you could do that if you did it consistently would have the greatest impact in your life? The number one thing, whether it's eating X% raw or exercising daily or meditation or having gratitude practices or whatever, what's the number one thing that if you did it would have the greatest positive impact? And just do that one thing, not 10 things or 5 things or 3 things, but one thing. And that's been huge for me in the past. And then related to that, identify the number one thing you need to stop doing. So what's the number one habit that you have that's most disconnecting you from your highest self? And commit to stop doing that. And then the other thing that came into my mind while I was thinking about that, listening to you, was make it 100% commitment. Because too often, and we talk about this a lot in the notes and in the book, Jack Canfield, the guy who came up with chicken soup for the soul, he has this great idea. He says 100%, he says 99% is a bitch and 100% is a breeze. So 99% is actually really hard. It's much, much harder to make a 99% commitment to something than it is a 100% commitment. Now, you can't make 100% commitments to 100 things, but one thing, you're never going to eat fast food again. 100% commitment. I'm never going to eat fast food again. That was my commitment. I used to live on McDonald's and Burger King and Pizza Hut, and every time I drove by McDonald's, it was like, oh, I've been so good for so long, maybe. And I'd go and totally spin out. And, it took 100% commitment for me of never again will I eat at that place that allowed me to have that level of commitment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so 100% is way easier than 99%. And
That's why people are always saying, oh, I got to be 100% raw, I can't just do 90 or something.
Right.
oftentimes it's easier, because then it forces you to do the work required to figure out how you actually do it. Colin Campbell, who wrote the China study, he says, talking about the correlations that we know about animal protein consumption and cancer and diabetes and heart disease. He says he's an advocate of essentially 100% vegan, 99 point something maybe, but 100% essentially. And he says, look, if someone came to you and they had a smoking problem, would you tell them to cut down to 2 cigarettes a day? Would you tell them to quit? And it's a matter of getting clear on what things in our lives, and we all have different philosophical bents on dietary needs and whatnot, although your community has very clear ones, I'm sure. But, whatever it is for us that's super important, that's not a should, it's I really feel authentically this would benefit me. We owe it to ourselves to honor ourselves enough to make 100% commitment. And then when that voice comes in, for us, one of our big practices was meditation and making it 100% meditation commitment. When we woke up and we didn't feel like it, we knew that voice had no power, because that voice always comes up. It's super smart. It comes up with all the great reasons why today should be the day. Then we make the exception. But when 100% commitment is there, you look at it and you're like, oh, thanks. I'm not really interested in that conversation. And then you do what needs to get done anyway.
And I also think having a bigger vision. So for us, for meditation, we had the vision of what would it look like if we had meditated for 30 years. That was kind of our vision of, we had meditated for 30 years and never missing a day. So we had this vision that was pulling us forward. So whether it's healthy, whatever your future vision is, and actually why are you doing it? Like, what is your intention for it? I think is really important. That pulls you forward rather than I have to do it or I should do it.
I like the idea of those things being non-negotiable. I remember that coming up in the notes. Yeah, that it's just, it is. That's it. You're doing it. Yeah.
I'm never going to have another drink again. I'm never going to smoke again. I'm never going to have fast food again. Whatever it is, I'm going to meditate every day. It's non-negotiable. And again, as Canfield says, that's so much easier than 99% because there's always that part of you that's like, today's the day for the exception, you know? So then the number one thing and then the 100% commitment is huge. And then the other idea that kind of the three that are really big for me are those two, and then now what needs to be done. So Constructive Living, a book by a guy named David Reynolds that we have a note on, it's honestly probably the best book that no one's ever heard of. It's just amazing. It's like 100, it's really short, 130 pages maybe, less than 200, less than 150 probably, packed with wisdom. Dan Millman, Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and all those books, he recommended this book to me, and he's bases a lot of his work on this philosophy. But the basic idea is that emotions pass, you know, like clouds pass. Sometimes we feel good, sometimes we feel bad. That's just how it is. But the really healthy, optimal functioning human being does what needs to be done regardless of how they feel. So his phrase is, okay, you know, you feel terrible. You don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning. Fine. Now what needs to be done? You know, you're having a tough conversation. You don't want to say what you really feel. Okay, great. Now what needs to be done? You have a business idea, but you're scared about what the person will think about it. Awesome. Now what needs to be done? And training ourselves that regardless of how we feel, we take constructive action. It's amazing. And he says to be the type of human being that you know that you have the self-mastery and the self-will and power to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel is like, that's the most empowering, liberating, confidence-building thing you can possibly have. And that's a practice. You build that like you build a muscle. Just keep on practicing it. But that's been big for me to help take those baby steps to deal with the procrastination that we talked about last time. So that's another big one that we both love, huh?
Yeah, totally.
Any other thoughts on that?
On the now it needs to be done.
It reminds me of Do the Dishes, isn't that?
Yeah,
Byron Katie or something, same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you always know what needs to be done next.
And there's only one thing.
If you're honest. Yeah, there's always just one thing.
Yeah, that's good. So to go into that a little bit more, Byron Katie, loving what is, she's awesome. She basically says, look, if you're stressed out, just do the dishes. Do the simple thing that needs to get done. Pick that sock up off the ground, send the email that needs to get out. At any given moment, you can only do one thing, and there's only one thing that needs to be done. We don't need to confuse ourselves with everything at once. That's huge. Just taking that next little baby step is a huge practice to deal with the procrastination and just to get good at taking action. That one's cool.
That reminds me of the list that you were just talking about as well. What was that?
Oh, the incompletions list.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
the making a list of all your incompletions, things that need to be done that you've been procrastinating on, or that just need to get done. Whether it's doing the dishes or paying bills or calling someone back. Usually we have this list of things incomplete that's taking up space in our mind and bringing us down. So anytime that you're feeling drained, exhausted, negative, whatever, check in and see if there's an incompletion or something that needs to be completed.
Or 100.
Or 100, and then just make a list. Make a list of like, okay, this is what needs to get done. When is it going to get done by? What's the next action step to making it happen? And then just checking it off, and you'll notice that you start feeling better. You get kind of in the flow, in the zone, and you just get a whole bunch of stuff done. It feels really good.
That's amazing. And then the other side of that is start paying attention to the commitments you make, and never make a commitment without the intention of honoring it. Because too often we say yes when we really mean maybe, or a lot of times no. So to take an inventory of all the commitments that we've made and realize, God, I wish I didn't make that commitment. And then either honor it, fulfill it, or get in touch with the person and say, you know what, when I made that commitment, I was in a different space, and now I'm either no longer willing to honor that commitment, or I would like to change the commitment, or I'd like to change the timeline or whatever. But communicating is huge. And then for me, that's become a really big practice of being in integrity and not letting that energy leak. So I'm really conscious on the commitments I'm going to make. When I make a commitment, I'm really clear that I'm going to honor that commitment. And then it leads to kind of the next idea we were talking about, which is one touching. So when I make a commitment, I like to get it complete. I like to have completions in my life. And one of the ways that we're able to create as much as we do is we complete things. So we have ideas and then we get committed and then we complete them. And one of the ways we do that is by one touching. So for example, mundane wise, if you get an email, you can leave that incomplete by opening it, reading it, but then letting it sit there. But we've all done it where we have dozens or even hundreds of them in our inbox, and it's stressful. You don't even want to go to your email, and it's like nauseating, right? But so the idea is, like, when you get that email, most emails take less than a minute or two to deal with, and I've trained myself to make it certain that they take less than a minute or two. I don't like long emails. It's like, let's communicate and get it done. And keeping the inbox at 0 is huge. So when it comes in, one, touch it. Reply to it, or delete it, or forward it to someone who can help you with the issue. But don't leave it there. And you can do that with everything in your life. Like when you sit down to do something, see if you can get it done and get completion in one sitting, one touch, versus coming back to it again and again and again. You save so much time when you do that. So those are some of our favorite.
Yeah, that was huge for me. I remember I don't even know why you told me about that, but a few years ago, I must have asked you, like, how can I deal with email better or something? Or no, I think I was just amazed that you always answered emails so quickly. I was like, why? How do you do that? And you said this thing about, like, anything that takes under 2 minutes, just do it immediately. And so I started to do that more. And I wouldn't say I do it all the time, but I definitely do it a lot. Like when I'm working through my emails, it's like, okay, I can do this quickly. I can do this quickly. And I do always end up with a load that, again, they're really long. And okay, I'm going to come back to those. But yeah, I really feel like that helped my efficiency with handling email, definitely. And I pass that on to other people as well when they're asking me, like, how can I help, make my business more efficient or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think it's important to prioritize as well. If you're gonna get on your email, make sure you have time that you can actually do it. Don't just get on and be like, oh, I'm just gonna see what's going on and opening it and then just playing around and then getting off and leaving it. I've had to work on that. Because I'll get in and kind of look and not actually do anything, and then I have a whole bunch of incompletions. So.
Yeah, I remember someone saying something else about that really spoke to me at one point. It was something about, it is inevitable. If you open your email, there's going to be stuff to do.
Right,
so don't open it unless you are willing to do. It's like you're opening a can of worms. There is going to be stuff to do in there. So yeah, don't go in there unless you're willing to take action.
Good stuff.
I also want to add with the taking action, which has been a process for me of, as you want to build a habit, you've had decades of actually eating crappy or drinking or smoking, and that is a way of being for you. And you have, you feel stressed, you drink. You feel stressed, you smoke or whatever, eat. So that you actually have to train your body and your mind and rewire your brain to actually ingrain the habit. So it takes a lot of work and a lot of action and a lot of patience. And one thing that I recommend people to do is just be gentle and patient and consistent and just keep doing it and doing it. And then when you don't do it, just what you were talking about earlier is recommitting. So if you committed to eating raw, you all of a sudden have a cooked meal. Don't beat yourself up. Feel into what you can learn about it. Okay, what can I learn about it? What were my triggers? What had me eat this cooked meal? Where did I slip up? And then recommit and recommit and recommit and recommit until
That's
you
awesome.
have the habit.
That recommitment is amazing. And that vision that we talked about is, if you're flying from LA to Ecuador, for example, you have a goal in mind, but the fact is that you're off target 99.9% of the time. You're constantly recommitting to the goal that you set. So for us in our lives, whether it's raw or meditation or not yelling at our kids or spouse or whatever, it's recommit. Wow, that was really important to me for these reasons, this vision, this why, and I'm going to recommit. And diligently, patiently, persistently, and playfully put in the effort. And little by little, over days and months and years and decades, we can completely rewire our minds and our being and become the person we're capable of becoming.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
I want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
Get really clear about what your priorities are. I know this was
Yeah.
huge for me of getting clear about what's important, because I would have so many different things to do and different projects and whatever. And and he's awesome at helping me. I'm like, focus. What is your top priorities? And then focus on that till it's done. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to do this project and that project and these 10 other things, because you're not really taking action on any of them. So getting like, what are your top 3 priorities in your life? And it shifts and changes as you move and flow through all your goodness, but getting really clear about what that is makes it easier to take action because you have
Right.
less steps.
Right, right.
Awesome. Amen to that.
Did we get everything?
I think so. We talked about the number one thing, which is big. The number one thing you can start doing and stop doing, and the 100% commitment versus 99% commitment. We talked about now it needs to get done. That one's big. What else we talked about? We talked about one touching. That's big. Completions, which is tied to that. Recommitment, which is big. Did you mention something else?
Priorities.
And prioritization. Yeah, that's really cool. What a great subject. I really
Yeah.
love these chats. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for
Where
coming
can people find out more?
Oh, yes.
Can they go to philosophersnotes.com?
You can. Go to philosophersnotes.com. All these ideas are from the 125 great self-development books that I've created notes on, 6-page PDFs, 20-minute MP3s, and then it's also in the book that we're just coming out with, which we're really excited about.
And you just did 25 new ones, right? That's
Yeah.
Now you're at 125
Yes,
for
that's
the
really
notes.
fun.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Woo.
Woohoo. Happy dancing. Thank you for your support.
And
Yeah.
I'll share my website too.
Yeah.
mygoddesslife.com.
Exciting things coming there soon as well.
Yeah, I have Rock Your Goddess Life program that's coming next month. So rockyourgoddesslife.com will be available next month, and we talk about all of this goodness as well in there for women only.
Nice.
Sweet. Thank you.
Cool, guys. Thank
Thanks
you.
for having
Cool.
us.
Right on. Me personally, when it comes to taking action, my goal is like to keep taking action until I have nothing to do. Like if there's something there, I can't deal with until it's done.
That's why you get so much stuff done.
So it's like I finished. So it's like I have nothing to do. So it's like, yeah, that's my thing. It just happens like that.
And Matt, wait, the one question that I saw on the last video that we did on procrastination, I don't know if you ever answered it, people were saying, does Matt ever struggle with procrastination? So Matt, could you tell us if you ever struggle with procrastination?
Sure. What is procrastination? I don't get it.
Okay, there you go. There is your answer. He doesn't even know what the word means.
It's a good problem to have.
Wow. You never ever had issues with procrastination.
Maybe in school, like stuff I didn't care about.
That's what it is. Now he's on his own path. Mr. Dynamic.
And who do we got there?
Angela Stokes Monarch.
And
Alexandra J. Johnson.
Brian Johnson.
and Matt Monarch, taking action, no procrastination. And we'll see you again tomorrow at the Raw Food World TV show.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again at the Raw Food World.